Fear and Hunger is a wonderfully bleak horror game and one of my personal favorite games. I've made it my mission to make the game more accessible by making strategies for any challenge you get stuck on. But this video is for those who want to experience the game with a little less hand-holding. It's for those that want to learn to grapple with the horrors of the dungeon alone. If you're someone who's recently purchased Fear and Hunger and find yourself struggling, or someone that's thinking about buying the game, this video is for you. It's a spoiler-free introduction into the mechanics and mindset you'll need to survive the dungeon. This game is one of the cruelest video games you've ever seen, but with the right mindset, you too can develop the Stockholm Syndrome necessary to fully immerse yourself into this bleak and atmospheric nightmare that will haunt you for years. In most RPGs, if you take damage, you can take a quick rest at the inn to fully recover from whatever injuries you had. Fear and Hunger is an RPG on the surface, but its true nature is a survival horror game. You will feel every single attack you take for the entire rest of the game. That isn't to say you'll never mitigate the effects. If you drink a healing potion, you can get your health back. If you staunch your wounds, the bleeding will stop, but you won't get a chance to use that potion for alchemy. You won't be able to turn those cloth rags into a torch. Even if you're lucky enough your wounds can be fixed, every item you spent healing yourself becomes lost opportunity. Every injury adds up and you will feel every hit for the rest of your playthrough. But what do you do when your injuries are overwhelming? Let's say things have gone wrong, as they often do in this dungeon. You've been hacked apart, you're bleeding out, and your body's gone into shock. Most people would give up, reload an old save, or start over with a new character. These people are making a mistake. If there's no chance you'll come back from what just happened, then you're in a perfect chance to grow more powerful. Not the character, but you, the player. You can't go from completely doomed to 110% doomed, so now is the best time to experiment. Take risks. Try out things you think won't work. Jump down random holes. Pick fights. Try risky tactics, and either lose or come out armed with deadly knowledge. You won't save your character's life, but knowing what monsters are ahead, what lies down that hole, how the monsters fight, and what those mysterious items do, means that when you do finally die, you'll know what's coming up and how to handle it. And, if you're lucky, you'll find out where some valuable items are. The dungeons of Fear and Hunger are incredibly dense. If you're thorough when you search, you could find a half-dozen healing items, some food, a key, and a diary kept by someone in the dungeon, all in the same room. If something looks weird, examine it. If there's something growing there, interact with it. If you see shelves, search them. If you see random notes on the ground, read them. You'll either gain a valuable item or valuable insight into why you shouldn't stick your hand down that hole. Make sure to read through every book and every item description on everything you find. Even if your character doesn't become any stronger from it, learning about the world around you is crucial to your survival. The gods and mythological figures you learn about aren't far-off figures you don't need to worry about. This dungeon is one of the last places man can meet his creators. Even if the enemies in the dungeon seem overwhelming at first, there's rules to how they move and how they attack. Everything they do, every attack they make, every place they walk to, even how they chase you down, all follow specific rules and patterns. Knowing these rules is how you survive. No armor is stronger than staying away from attacks. No weapon can surpass the knowledge of their weak points. And no armor or weapon, no matter how magical or legendary or well-crafted, is enough to save you when you rush in recklessly without a worry in the world. The truth is, for this game, it's all about what you know, not how lucky you are. A lot of people blame their luck when they die. They say, if only they had the right weapon, if only they found the right spell, if only they could have escaped, if only they didn't miss, if only. The more you blame luck, the less responsibility you think you have for your own fate, but that's wrong. Nothing in this game requires luck. Yes, finding a powerful weapon or spell early can make it much easier to survive. Yes, finding the right item can make a specific fight that much easier. Yes, you can defeat enemies more quickly or more safely with the right tools. But none of them are necessary. It's never bad luck that kills you. It was your decision to rely on something risky. When you've truly mastered the game, no amount of luck, good or bad, will affect your strategies. Every time you fail, it's your own fault, not the game's. Because every blow is so deadly, every injury so costly, and every fight so risky, fighting your opponents is almost never worth it. You don't get experience points and level up. You rarely pick up worthwhile equipment from the dead. The best way to survive fights is to avoid them. Sneak behind your opponents. If they spot you, run. If they catch you, run from the fight. The only time it's worth fighting your enemies is when you outnumber them so much that you can kill them before they even do anything, or when you know them so well that you can resolve the fight without them touching you. The first few times you use the talk command, you might get the impression that it's largely worthless. You try and talk your way out of a fight, only for an insane monster to hack you to pieces. You try to talk to a floating jellyfish, only for him to tell you, "Sorry, pal, but a man's gotta eat." At that point, it's totally reasonable to think that it's a worthless skill that doesn't help you at all, but don't give up on it. It's worth experimenting with. It can instantly win fights. It can trivialize encounters. It can even turn enemies into friends. Just remember, sometimes having certain items in your inventory can change what you can do with the talk command. In most RPGs, the ability to guard is a vestigial leftover feature. All it does is waste your turn and halve the damage you take. Nobody uses it because there's no use for it. Fear and Hunger is not one of those games. Guarding keeps your limbs attached. It lets you evade deadly attacks. Learn the rhythms of the fight, when to attack and when to guard. Whenever you get a bad feeling about an enemy, guard. It can save your life and your limbs. Enemy attacks are tied to certain limbs. An enemy can't hack your arm off if you destroy his sword arm first. Whenever you're in a fight, watch the enemy carefully. If you see a body part flash, that's the part that's attacking you. Cut off a skeleton's leg and he can't kick you. Cut off a lizard's tail and he can't whip you with it. As long as you pay close attention to what parts are getting used, you can preemptively destroy them to keep yourself safe. Lastly, terror and starvation is not the intended mode. When this game was released, the only game mode was fear and hunger. But the deranged denizens of this dungeon and its Discord demanded a deeper difficulty. The more limited food, limited torchlight, and more dangerous enemies are meant for players that already know the game. It's for people that already know the fastest routes to where they want to go and still feel like they don't want to have enough food and torchlight. For a new player, this means you will simply not have enough supplies. Even if you make it to the end, you'll wind up there with so little left you won't be able to finish. You'll get stuck and will have to start over. You'll have to throw all of your time and hard work into the trash and start over. And you'll learn a lot of wrong lessons on the way down there, and they'll stick with you. Start off on fear and hunger, and switch to terror and starvation once the game feels too easy. At the end of all of this, do you think you're strong enough to survive the dungeons? This advice may have seemed a little vague, but that's the point. This is a game best enjoyed completely blind. But if you wander into the dungeon with the wrong set of expectations, you'll have a bad time. Hopefully, this video can help you on your journey while still leaving mysteries to be discovered. If you're struggling to overcome a specific enemy or challenge, or struggling to achieve a specific ending, I have a series that's covering how to beat every enemy in the game. So check out my other videos if you need a little more help. This was All Bones Jones, and it's time for you filthy sinners to get the heck out of here.